opportunity to go out there and protect our health. Let's get it! Let's go, baby!
Patrick Mahomes, the magic show!
Let's go!
Mahomes spectacular in this game. Holding it, pump faking, diving for the far front pylon! Does he have it? Touchdown! Mahomes runs it in! And Patrick Mahomes' revolution continues.
How can he get any better than what we saw last year? 50 touchdowns, the MVP? Well, we're going to find out. Welcome to Good Morning Football. We're live in New York, Monday, July 29th. Burleson.
Hey, now, what's up, everybody?
I'm
back.
The building.
I'm ready. I'm ready, Kay. Ready to talk some football, yeah.
Mike Garafolo is here. Thanks for hanging out with us.
You got it. Thank you for having me. Pete Schrager's chair.
That's right. You're almost as tan as he is.
You know he hates being called Pete.
Yeah.
Ooh, Kyle Brandt is here. My name's Kay, and this is the Lead Block.
Lead block. Lead block.
You can tweet us at #GMFB. Let's start in Kansas City, where we heard from wide receiver Tyreek Hill. He was made available to the media just yesterday for the first time since the NFL announced that he would not be suspended following an investigation into child abuse allegations. Hill addressed those allegations yesterday.
Like I said, I'm just here to, man up to what I did. You know what I'm saying? Like on the audio, my bad language. I'm a man up to that. You know what I'm saying? I don't want nobody talking to my little sister, my daughter that I have now. You know what I'm saying? My mom. Like that, you know what I'm saying? That's very disrespectful. And, my mom got onto me, she thumped me in the ear, come on, man, Reed, come on, grow up out of that. So, I never again, like I said, I'm growing as a human being, as a person, and I'm never again.
Says never again. Mike, what do you make of his comments?
I thought he should have probably come out right off the top and mentioned that. That was a couple of minutes into the press conference before he finally addressed his language. I wasn't there. I assume he meant that one line about you need to be terrified of me too, which I still thought was going to be the thing that the league may have latched onto and said, okay, we can't figure out what happened as far as the other facts of the case, but we've got this on tape and we're going to suspend you at least for that. I thought maybe that would be the case.
Do you think bad language meant the threat? Because that's what I wanted to hear.
I'm assuming
apologize
so.
for anything. Apologize for the threat.
Now, if I was there, I would have said, did you mean by that? And I'm not knocking the reporters there. I'm just saying, because they did cut this short. I think it was also by design that he wasn't going to speak at the beginning of training camp, but not too late into training camp. They were trying to figure out where the sweet spot was to let him talk to the media, and they figured it out. It was yesterday. So I assume that's what he meant by that. And if he did, yes, like I said, probably should have off the top said, look, I can't talk about the facts of the case, but I want to address that one comment there. It took him a couple of minutes into the press conference before he finally did.
Yeah, Tyreek Hill is a fantastic talent. That has nothing to do with the man's character. I can appreciate a guy standing in front of the media and addressing certain things that are going on. I'm pretty sure we all have more questions about what has happened over the last year or so with him and the mother of his child. But for me, it's a little bit deeper than just what is he doing off the field. It's about the young kids. He mentioned his daughter, the people that are within his family, the little kids that are looking up to him in his community, and then him being a superstar, and you have young boys and girls looking at Tyreek Hill as a role model. Whether we want to embrace it or not, everything that you do will be heard, and most of it will be repeated. So even if it's just audio, you got to be careful what you put out into this world, because if it comes back around for somebody else to hear that, even though a young man or a woman might not say anything when they hear it, they're likely to repeat the same things that you do as an adult. And let this be a lesson to most NFL players. Make sure you take care of home, because when you don't, those things will spill out into the community, into the ears of the youth, and they are our future, man.
It's an extremely convoluted story. It goes back months, the recordings and other recordings.
Years.
It goes back. It does go back years. And I got to say, him standing in front of it, addressing it, sort of, there was a moment when my BS detector really went off that I had a problem with. And he was asked at the very end of the session about, and I'm sorry this is so unsavory, but about punching his child in the chest. And he had a response that was, well, we're boxing, and he likes Aquaman, and he likes Iron Man, and that's what happened. No. I have a 3-year-old. I'm around 3-year-olds all the time. Birthday parties, play dates, I see them all the time. My 3-year-old loves the roughhouse. Very, very physical. There's a way to do it, all right? And it's all awash in caution. You toss them on the couch and there's a million pillows. You quote-unquote tackle them and you're hugging them and falling over. There's no punching. There's no crying. There's certainly no injuries. And so to come out and say, well, we love superheroes. We all love superheroes. They all love superheroes. My BS detector went off. And I just got to say, to make a hard left turn to football, the idea that, there's going to be some massive long-term deal the Chiefs are going to sign with, which they were talking about as recently as March. I can't see it because I just don't think the trust factor is there. And if it was my position, I wouldn't do it.
And it is a really hard left turn. The Chiefs fans, at least what we've seen from camp, giving him an applause when he's coming out onto the field, that's hard for me to do. I've never been able to compartmentalize what happens off the field and on the field as far as being a good player. I think that a lot of fans in the NFL are like that, so that's why it's such a serious problem. He addressed it, I guess, the way he was going to, and now it doesn't really matter what he says. It's all what happens from now on, right?
But with all that said, just to continue the conversation, because off the field and on the field, it's blended at this point, and you said you don't see the Chiefs making a long-term deal or at least starting the conversation. Why not, though? The NFL came out and they said, you know what? He's not going to be suspended. So all we can do is lean on to the machine that we actually work for. And if the NFL says, we didn't see anything wrong enough for us to suspend him.
Yeah.
So why would the organization resist the fact to sign one of the most explosive receivers in the game?
That deal is coming, and it will be celebrated by many Chiefs fans.
He's going to get paid.
Other fans of other teams will look at it under a different lens. And Kyle, you're probably going to look at it under that same lens.
We'll see. There's a lot to talk about.
And there's two ways to look at it, Kyle.
Hardman, maybe they're preparing and battening down the hatches. I don't know if it's coming.
They certainly did that, but we've got guys who are on the ground there in St. Joe's, Missouri. We've got Baldy and Jeff Chadilla out there with more on his return to the team and how it's sort of impacting training camp.
Well, okay, I'll tell you this much. In talking about Tyreek Hill, you guys are right. It's a very complicated issue. It's not the kind of issue that can be resolved through social media or an 8-minute press conference. And no matter what he said yesterday, he was not going to look great saying it. But as far as saying it, it was good to get it done early. Last year, Kareem Hunt had some issues off the field in the offseason. They waited about 10 days. It became a big issue. It festered. By doing this, at least now they can move forward. And, look, he's got to do a lot of things as far as dealing with the court, as far as parenting, as far as meeting certain standards and requirements set forth by family services. So this is not going to be an easy road for Tyreek Hill. But as far as fan support, you talked about the fact that he was cheered heavily. You're right. That was a big part of the story on Saturday in his first practice, and the fact that he will probably get paid at some point. Chris Jones' contract is very much affected by what they're going to do with Tyreek Hill. They're very clear about the fact that they're going to pay Tyreek Hill at some point.
At one point he was.
I think this is, much larger than a Tyreek Hill story, a Chiefs story. This is a national epidemic of domestic abuse, of child abuse. And so I think it could have been handled a lot better. I mean, maybe just read a prepared statement. Because the words have to be measured very, very carefully here. But there is zero tolerance. I thought there was zero tolerance before, because this is a track record going back to Oklahoma State when he was released from the school from domestic battery with the same woman. And so there is repeated offense here. And so there has to be zero tolerance. I'm sure that the Hunt family, Andy Reid, it has been explained very clearly to Tyreek, and I hope I hope he listens very clearly. And then whatever the Chiefs do going forward, hopefully we can never have to deal with this again with Tyreek, and hopefully no other players.
Thank you so much, Baldy and Jeff Chadilla, back here at the breakfast table. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see what they do. Patrick Mahomes, everybody sort of wants to focus on what's going on the field. And I echo what Baldy said. That nothing that he says or the way he handled it as measure as we look at it is going to change the fact that it's all about what happens in his actions going forward. So if we're talking about improvement for this team, let's say we focus it on the X's and O's here on the field just for a moment here. Mahomes, I'm hearing a lot of he can get better. Mm-hmm. And I laugh, because how is that possible?
It's possible. And we're so obsessed with the numbers because the numbers are incredible. We've seen a lot of guys have incredible sensational years. Like, they've become sensations. There's a line between becoming a sensation and a superstar, and that's doing it over and over again. Someone like RG3, sensation, injuries. Lamar Jackson last year was kind of a sensation. Doing it year after year after year is when we're like, now Mahomes isn't just great, didn't just put up some numbers. He's actually taking over the sport, which is why the second year is so exciting, because if he does it again, guys, buckle up for the next decade.
Yeah, no, you're right about that. Oftentimes we'll talk about movies on the show, which seems like every day, and Kyle will say something, it's a perfect movie. I think Back to the Future is one of them.
Perfect movie.
Right, perfect movie. Close to perfect. How do you criticize a movie like that? Patrick Mahomes was close to perfect last year. I mean, 50 touchdowns.
Yep.
It was hard to really think of something. I was talking with Hamilton's super producer, researcher.
What's he got?
Hey, can you pick at something? Can you find something?
Yeah.
And Pat Mahomes, he said, Nate, this is going to be tough. And he came to me like a last-minute shot right before the show. He said, I got something. I don't know if it's actually legit. And he talked about the passes 20 yards plus down the field. He had 10 touchdowns, 20 yards plus, which seems like last year he would have more with those deep shots. 7 interceptions of 20 yards plus in those attempts, right? So 50 attempts, 10 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. So as strong as his arm is, as explosive as his wideouts are, there's times where he's going to need to have a little discernment and sit back and say, you know what, I'm not going to take this shot. And that's tough when you have a young quarterback with such a big arm.
7 picks?
7 picks.
You're going to be sore tomorrow morning.
That's some heavy lifting right there. Some heavy lifting.
I think Hammer's the one that's going to be sore. You know, when I think of him as an archaeologist with a hat and a whip. Finding if anybody can find it,
he can dig deep.
Right.
Hammer's going to find it.
How do you define success for Mahomes?
Not regressing, right? Because that's he's going to regress. The sophomore slump, even though it's his technically junior season, but
right? No, you're right.
Starter. People are looking for that. No, all these tricks and things, and maybe he's going to try to do too much. Maybe don't try and do too much. Maybe just stick with what works.
Yeah.
Continue to read the field. Don't feel like you've got to do the spectacular stuff. I saw him throwing left-handed the other day at practice into a net.
I like it.
I don't think he was just showing off. I think to him it's serious stuff because he may have to throw left-handed at times. So just, don't try to do too much.
What do we measure quarterbacks by?
Super Bowls.
Super Bowls, rings, how far you get in the postseason. It's why when I put up a fantasy quarterbacks list, everyone's yelling at me about why isn't Brady on this list? Because nobody cares about Brady's numbers. Brady doesn't care about his numbers. So to me, you have to get further in the playoffs. That's what you have to do. It's not about any
AFC
sort of
Championship game is pretty good, Kay.
So he's got to get to the Super Bowl and potentially win it. That should be the expectation.
I agree. And I will say Michael Jordan shot a free throw with his eyes closed and made it. I want to see an eyes closed pass from Mahomes. If you can do left hand, you can eyes closed right down the hill.
Did you take some pre-workout before that segment?
Oh, yeah. That was a good lift. Good burn. Right here.
We'll be back after this business. Good morning football. We're hopping around from training camp to training camp. We're having a superstar running back take the load off of Lamar Jackson's